Hey, welcome to this Undivided Life, fighting together to make life whole again. I'm Troy Mclaughlin. On the other side of the country, my co-host, Scott Perkins. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
I'm really great today, Troy. How are things for you?
Pretty well. I know we're, at least on our side of the country, at least as we record this, you may hear this a couple years from now and just go, oh, yeah, I remember that. But we are on state-mandated lockdown, only essential services. And so how's it going there?
In Florida, we haven't done that, but they closed the beaches, and basically I'm on spring break, and I have nothing to do. So, yeah. Poor me.
So are some of your students upset because they couldn't go have fun on spring break, go to Cocoa Beach or anything like that? Or
I am sure some of them are upset, but they haven't relayed that to me. So
gotcha. They probably don't share with the professor, the math professor, right? That's not.
No, some of them are getting ready for a test when they get back from spring break, so they're upset at me.
Oh, so you're giving them a test when they come back?
Some of them, yeah.
Oh, only some of them. You are the special student, you get your test, huh?
Well, I have different classes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
We had some delays. They canceled class for a week, so everything is just out of kilter. So I think the students know that, and they're adapting pretty well.
Right. Well, let's talk about this, and we're going to talk about this word present, to be present, and oftentimes we're just not present, right? We're either living in the past or living in the future. There's a question, if you're not familiar with the story in Genesis 1, where the Adam and Eve, they've got full range of the garden. They can do whatever they want to do except eat from this one tree. And of course, being human as we are, we decide to do the one thing that someone we should trust, we do. And God comes around walking in a cool, I think at least in Scripture is something like the cool of the garden, and he's looking around for it. And the question he asks is, where are you? And as I relate that to our situation now, I know that many of you are in a situation, well, it can certainly be scary if you don't have a job or your job has been curtailed or you're not being able to work and where you're at. So often the now that we're in, where we are actually, we want to escape it. So we're either in our past or in our future or anxious. And this idea of asking the question is, where are you now? Being present is so important. And what do you think about this idea of, and I know you talk about, because you're a coach too, how important is it that we ask that question, where are we?
Well, sharing that story from Genesis, I always read that as God asking a question out of longing. He made Adam and Eve, and he wanted a relationship. That's why he's walking in the garden to be with them, and they are trying to escape from him. They're trying to be anywhere because they know they've done wrong. They're trying to be anywhere but near where God is, and he has this longing for them. And it goes to this picture of, we try to put everything and anything in place of taking time to have that relationship with God. We invest all our time in work, or we invest our time in earning money or education or relationships or fun or whatever it is. And so the whole time God's saying, where are you? I created you to work in a relationship with me. And I think, just if we can put aside, I understand there's people out of work. I get that. Where as a church here in Florida, we're dealing with people who've lost their jobs. So I get that there's some other things to be anxious about. But we've really entered a time where we can be present, right? The distraction of a lot of things has been taken away from us. Like, I can't go to the beach for spring break. I can't distract myself by going anywhere. Now, God, now I have time to pause and throw my attention on God and receive kind of the rest in my soul. So despite all of the anxiety that's going on with everything else and all the unknown and all the disruption, my soul has been really quite calm because I've been able to take this extra opportunity to focus on answering that question God asks, where are you?
Well, you said rest in your soul. What are some of the ways, that you found that are effective to actually find rest in our souls?
Well, I would say one of the first things is to turn off all the media input, right? All you're doing is listening to people who are reacting and putting out theories, and what I see is that so many people don't know anything, right? So I've just kind of turned off a lot of the input, and now in that quiet, instead of thirsting for more information or trying to control the situation, I'm able to focus and turn my attention and turn my face toward God, and it's much easier because I don't have all the distractions pointing me one way or the other.
So, actually, consciously turning off some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have to have a little bit of information. I totally understand that, but I think some people just sit around with the news on, or keep going from news site to news site, or logging into Twitter or Facebook. And all that does is you get this, you're taking on the anxiety that everybody else is putting out there. And it's not doing any good. It's counterproductive, right? And I mean, that's why there's no toilet paper anywhere, because everybody has responded to this anxiety. That's one of the products of people who are not being present. They're not thinking of their neighbor. They're only thinking of themselves. So they hoard things. So, being intentional, consciously turning things off, maybe having just a trickle of information come in rather than the fire hydrant hose of things that are just doing nothing but stimulating anxiety. We got to remember, God's still in control, right? His kingdom is still growing. It is, nothing has disrupted that.
No, you said fire hose of information, and I just picture something that it overwhelms us, right? Because we start to grasp for these inputs and feed on these things, and they feed the anxiety, right? It allows it to grow, and then then we're overwhelmed by this, this deluge of just input, and part of the way that we can respond to this is, like you said, we walk away from some of these things, turn some of these things off. I listened to a guy on YouTube, and I think it was yesterday, and he says, I obsessively was looking at the news and trying to get the feeds, and he says, what I realized was all I needed to do was take 4 or 5 minutes a day, check up on the news, and that's all I needed. Because if I did any more, he says it was actually hurt. It was a sense, and it was hurting me. And I know if you're out there, and I'll just relate this to a story that I was going through a couple of years ago. I was talking to a friend of mine who I've had on the show, and then he's become a friend since, Kevin. And that year, my oldest, and she'd been sexually assaulted, and I remember the phone call from my wife, and she calls me, and she's in the parking lot, and they're having to go into see the police, and then go into the hospital, and go through the process of that. And I remember telling Kevin, I said, I hate my new normal. What's going on in our lives. And I think, you may be out there and go, wow, I just hate this new normal. And I get that feeling. I understand that.